police crack down on distracted drivers as thousands in Dunedin flout the law. Support wanes for an electronic voting trial in next year's local body elections. We'll find out why. And is this the end for the saddleback? Why it's thought the local population has been wiped out. Kia ora, I'm Holly Buchanan. Police are cracking down on distracted drivers, particularly those using mobile phones. Just over 2,000 people have been ticketed for the offence in Dunedin since legislation began in late 2009. And that's seen more than $160,000 taken from local pockets.
On average, one Dunedin driver gets ticketed for mobile phone use every day, and local police are targeting the bad habit in a 2-week campaign being run across the country. Officers say there's good reason to hammer the message home.
Distractions are the cause of around 12% of all our serious and fatal crashes, so we really want to generate some conversation around why we shouldn't be distracted while we're driving.
It became an offence to use mobile phones while driving in late 2009. Since then, $80 infringement notices have been issued to almost 80,000 drivers nationwide, a ticket take of just over $6.2 million.
Take the temptation away. If you're driving, turn off your phone or put it on silent. Put it where you can't reach it, because when it does go, the temptation's always there. Officers are all over the place, anytime, anywhere, and it's just not worth putting yourself or any other road users at risk.
In Dunedin and throughout the rest of the country, the number of drivers caught using mobile phones is consistently increasing every year, with no end in sight. That's almost $20,000 in fines locally for the first half of this year, and almost $1 million nationwide.
Initially we saw really good compliance, but certainly over the years we've noticed a real increase in people using their cell phones while driving. So, one person using it's not good enough.
This campaign's halfway through, but local police warn they'll never stop targeting distracted drivers, an ongoing effort to make life safer for all road users. Rosie Mannins, 39, Dunedin News.
A $90,000 grant is kick-starting the project to restore Dunedin's historic prison to its former glory. The money will enable the Dunedin Prison Charitable Trust to start exterior repairs, and that means members are finally able to turn their vision into reality.
Looking to the past for future inspiration, the Dunedin Prison Charitable Trust is getting ready to start much-needed repairs on the city's former jail. Resource consent has just been granted, along with funding from the Otago Community Trust. And Prison Trust Chairman Stewart Harvey expects the Lotteries Commission to contribute in coming months.
We're going to repair the roof, and we're going to reinstate the facades across the frontage and repair the roof and painting and all that stuff that's needed at the same time. It's about $600,000 worth.
The prison building dates back to the 1890s, and Harvey says the plan, particularly for the exterior, is to return it to its former glory. And he says getting the right people on board to do the work has been a breeze.
We're lucky in Dunedin having good tradesmen and people who can repair things to the real standards that they were built to in the early days. And this place was built really to last, and it has lasted very, very well.
The Trust has run prison tours for the past 4 years since it took over the site. Harvey says there's a lot of interest in the building and its history, inspiring grand plans beyond repair work.
In future, we're going to have a new visitor centre, and we're going to have proper tours, like real acted tours, people dressed up, telling the stories, and we're going to have a restaurant in the courtyard, and it's going to be a really superb tourist attraction.
Harvey says it's difficult to illustrate the Trust's vision for the former prison's future, but with work set to begin shortly, he foresees the public getting behind the project in a big way, helping to preserve not only the building itself, but an important part of the city's heritage. Ruby McAndrew, 39, Dunedin News.
The City Council's heeding public calls against its involvement in an online voting trial for local elections. Councillors have voted not to spend $165,000 taking part in the nationwide trial, and that's a relief for some residents who say the costly move comes with significant risk.
A digital debate. City councillors are warned by local web developers not to volunteer for a nationwide online voting trial. It would allow residents to vote in next year's local elections electronically. But there are fears the new system could be susceptible to hackers and election results altered.
So there's the risk of spending money on something which doesn't deliver what we're really trying to do. And there's also the risk of an election being interfered with, votes being prevented, votes being falsified, or the democratic process otherwise being messed around with by people who could be doing it for profit, for political agendas, or just for the lols.
Burgess says online voting creates a significant number of security and technical risks, and he says even though the idea is being pursued to make voting easier, the real problem lies in participation.
The most likely risk is that we'll spend money on a process that doesn't work for us. I believe that the council's intents, which are really good intents, are to increase participation and to engage more people in the process. But online voting isn't the answer to that.
He says countries that have trialled electronic voting systems have put millions of dollars into ensuring their security. And if those systems can be hacked, then there's every chance a local setup will prove to be vulnerable.
When Washington DC or the Netherlands or Australia, who also had significant security issues, when those people are throwing budget at it, there's no need for Dunedin City Council to spend $165,000 trying their hand as well.
Burgess says the introduction of a hackable voting system would take away residents' right to democracy. And if the only evidence of voting was online, residents' right to secrecy would also be compromised. Annabelle Dick, 39 Dunedin News.
Disability groups are calling for an investment from the council to help make the city more accessible.
Starting a conversation to create change. These residents want to see Dunedin become a more accessible city, making life easier for those living with disabilities.
The forum is about bringing together stakeholders such as the Dunedin City Council, Otago Regional Council, together with disabled people to discuss the issues around accessibility in our city.
The Disabled Persons Assembly says getting around the city can often be a struggle for some residents. Even small daily tasks are difficult for disabled people, who are frustrated by poor access to health providers and central city services.
Being not able to get to the shops, for example, being not able to access a bus, being not able to access even the most rudimentary services like health services due to inaccessible buildings, or being able to, or unable to, as the case may be, some websites really disables people.
Those attending the forum say the council needs to take the lead in making Dunedin more inclusive. A range of disability groups were represented in the discussions. Members say they need to be given the same opportunities as other Dunedin citizens.
Access is always needing to be improved. It's going to be an ongoing process. I think it's quite important to enable the participation of everyone in our community. That includes disabled people. That will enable disabled people in particular to take their rightful place in society as participating citizens.
Representatives from both the city and regional councils will now take those stories and concerns back to their organisations. It'll be up to the councils to develop strategies to improve Dunedin's accessibility, changes these residents say are a priority. Annabelle Dick, 39 Dunedin News.
An entire bird species is believed to have been wiped out within the Orokonul Eco Sanctuary. Saddlebacks haven't been seen inside the reserve since June. Staff suspect a rogue stoat and heavy snow is responsible, and there are fears the damage isn't over.
Orokonul Eco Sanctuary is a little bit quieter. The impact of a stray stoat is being realised by staff, who can't find the usually vocal and easy to spot saddleback. It's a major concern for Conservation Manager Elton Smith.
In theory, we should have between 40 and 50 birds in here, judging by previous year's survival. We've just completed a survey, a playback call survey, and we can't find a single bird. And there hasn't been a bird heard in Orokonul for about 2 months.
While the damage is done, there's evidence suggesting the sanctuary is now stoat-free. Several new and novel traps have been put in place by staff, and a stoat detection dog has been walked around the site for almost 20 hours.
The dog came back without any positive indications. It's So I won't be so bold to say that we're stoat free, but the evidence is starting to more suggest that we don't have stoats than we do now.
So far, saddlebacks are thought to be the only casualties, but there are concerns tuatara have fallen prey, and staff will begin checking numbers in coming months as the reptiles exit winter burrows. Staff are also discussing whether the saddleback population can be restored.
I think emotionally and maybe sort of politically would give it a rest for a couple of years, but there's no reason in years to come where we can't do another transfer. That population was all but established, and it was going to be this month. We're declaring it a success.
Until the stoat got in, the eco-sanctuary saddleback population was thriving, with breeding pairs and juveniles, and that gives staff hope for the future. Ruby McAndrew, 39 Dunedin News.
Still to come on Southern Newsweek, we find out why one of our sister city relationships may result in expanding student exchange programs, and the city hosts its first Peace Festival on an International Day of Peace. Welcome back. A Chinese university delegation is in town to deepen ties with Otago Polytechnic. It's the first visit by staff of the Shanghai University of International Business and Economics. And with talk of greater collaboration, the trip's unlikely to be their last.
A meeting of the minds. These representatives from a Shanghai business school are meeting their Otago Polytechnic partners for the first time. The Chinese university offers a summer program for local polytechnic students to immerse themselves in global economics and business.
The Polytech's had ties with the university for around about 5 years and has sent students each year on the summer school, which happens in June. And we've had approximately sort of 20 to 25 students going on the exchange so far.
Students from different departments all over the Polytechnic are involved. Terpstra has 3 students from the Food Design Institution taking part this year, and she says it's an amazing opportunity.
I think it's a really important relationship, and our students have really benefited from the opportunity to go on the summer school that the university offers and to experience a little bit of Chinese culture and life in Shanghai.
Delegates aim to maintain the relationship with the Polytechnic and take it further to include more student exchanges. And Terpstra says this visit's an ideal opportunity for the mutually beneficial discussions.
The university's been very, very generous in taking the students in for the summer schools, so we have a number of relationships with universities in China, so I imagine that we would want to broaden this relationship and have it, slightly more reciprocal than it is at the moment.
This is just one of several stops on the delegation's Australasian tour. And with more exchanges in the pipeline, the Polytechnic's international ties are set to strengthen even further. Annabelle Dick, 39 Dunedin News.
A monetary donation is proving invaluable for one local youth counselling service. Youthline Otago has received $15,000 in the latest round of funding by the Otago Community Trust. And staff say it's come at a good time with more people than ever needing the service.
Lending in air locals in crisis. Demand for Youthline Otago's free counselling service is on the up, prompting an increase of a third in volunteer numbers. And manager Brian Lowe says he foresees further expansion of the organisation's work.
The need is growing. In fact, pretty quickly we've seen a 50% increase in the usage of our helpline service in the last 12 months.
In that time, local volunteers have done over 1,000 more hours of work than in the previous year. And Lowe attributes the rise in demand to increasing difficulties in finding the right service.
A lot of charities are struggling, so the people who can't access other services because they're closing or reducing their availability are actually finding us, but the need is growing, definitely. Yeah, we're seeing a lot more what we call incidences.
Youthline primarily fields calls, texts and emails from teenagers and those in their 20s. But Lowe says calls are coming in from children as young as 8. The subjects of anxiety, suicide, depression and bullying are increasingly being discussed. And with the local need and scope growing, Lowe says the Community Trust's $15,000 grant will make all the difference.
We do get a quarter of our funding from the government, from Ministry of Social Development, but the rest of it has to be raised by Youthline Otago here absolutely by ourselves. So for people like Otago Community Trust to support us is just amazing.
The recent donation will go towards Youthline Otago's day-to-day running costs, as opposed to a big-ticket item, ensuring staff and volunteers are able to help those who need it most without worrying about the organisation itself. Ruby McAndrew, 39, Dunedin News.
Ancient tablets housed at Otago Museum are attracting interest from around the globe. They've prompted 2 university researchers to travel south from Israel, and their analysis of the local artefacts is set to boost public understanding of the past.
Examining ancient tablets dating back thousands of years, students from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem are exploring Otago Museum's large collection of cuneiform tablets. And PhD candidate Peter Zilberg says it's exciting to shine a light on something the general public may not know anything about.
So it's just a writing system. And we are studying the different objects and the different languages of that period, of the ancient Near East, around 4,000 years ago till 3,000 years ago, till the time of Alexander the Great.
Each tablet offers a glimpse into a particular time in history, with some documenting prescriptions and potions, while others are receipts of purchases. And one of Zilberg's main focuses while in Dunedin is to re-examine a specific medical text to feed into ongoing research.
It's part of a big project of publishing all the cuneiform tablets in Australia and New Zealand. There's a lot of cuneiform tablets coming as all different ancient documents, coming to different places around the globe.
Otago Museum is home to one of the biggest collections of cuneiform texts in Australasia, and PhD student Anna Perdebon says it's always interesting finding tablets in unexpected parts of the world.
They're scattered all around the world, and you can find them in really interesting places, like, we wouldn't have expected a few years ago to discover that they are here, and this is amazing.
Perdebon says the long-term aim of the project is to collect, register and translate all cuneiform tablets in Australia and New Zealand, in the hope of publishing the information so other academics and the public can learn more about the past. Ruby McAndrew, 39, Dunedin News.
An inaugural local festival is connecting cultural groups with a common cause. Hundreds of residents have taken part in the Peace Festival, the first of its kind in New Zealand. And organisers are celebrating its success on what is the United Nations International Day of Peace.
Uniting the Dunedin community in the name of peace. Hundreds of locals are at Forsyth Bar Stadium for the city's inaugural World Peace Day festival. The event's peppered with musical performance, speech and dance to entertain the crowd. And creative director Hundleby says it's the multicultural aspect that makes the festival so vibrant.
The importance of trying to achieve peace is bringing people together, and I think we have to bring the whole picture together in order to be able to even speak about peace. If we include everyone in the conversation about peace, then we're more likely to head towards the right direction.
September 21st marks the United Nations designated Day of Peace worldwide, and Hundleby says it's all about bringing together organisations and groups from around the city who support peace, and that includes local Māori.
A really, really important focus was bringing mana whenua in, the tangata whenua of this land, to present the peace and talk about peace from their perspective and from their bloodlines as well, and the work that their forebearers have put in place as peace work in this land.
Hundleby says people often see world peace as an unrealistic possibility, but with about 200 people taking part in this year's event, she says there's ample support for the cause. And the WOMAD Style Festival is a chance to get as many people as possible thinking about peace and unity.
We've got stalls from all around the world, we've got crafts, we've got massage, anything that's supporting the kaupapa of peace. So this celebration is a celebration of multicultural diversity in Dunedin. That's the kaupapa of piecing together for this event.
Hundleby says she's thrilled to see everyone come together and celebrate the city's multicultural diversity, having fun while also paying mind to the important topic of peace worldwide. Ruby McAndrew, 39, Dunedin News.
And just ahead on Southern Newsweek, we'll find out how quilt making is aiding the celebration of one Pacific Island culture, and there's no stopping the popularity of the BMX as hundreds hit the track for the first time. Welcome back. An artistic expression of Polynesian culture is being publicly showcased by members of the local Cook Islands community. The traditional Cook Islands method of quilting is the subject of an exhibition at Otago Museum, and it's part of a wider push to celebrate Pacifica in the city.
Te Vaivai, or local Cook Island quilting, is described as something from the heart. These members of the local community have been demonstrating their traditional craft at Otago Museum. The skill dates back to the 19th century and was introduced to the islands through Christian missionaries.
I think at the time that when missionary arrived, they taught all the women how to do the stitching, and that's how the Te Vaivai came about.
Te Vaivai crafters use cotton and a special type of fabric to make their quilts. That can't be found in Dunedin and has to be sourced from Auckland or overseas. These ladies say the art form can take years to master and requires an artistic hand.
You've got to have an artist or a skill about drawing and sewing. It takes a long time for us to learn about it.
Moirawa says the event was aimed at giving local Cook Islanders a chance to teach their art and provide others with a taste of Polynesian culture. She believed that's vital to keep the city's Cook Island culture alive.
It's just maintaining our culture, having our beliefs that so that we can be proud of who we are and where we come from. I think that's one thing that I like to encourage the mothers here to carry on doing what they love, what they know, and for them to be proud of their knowledge.
The Creative Pacifica Festival was aimed at bringing a cultural vibrancy to the city from across the Pacific. It's something the group hope to repeat in the future. Annabelle Dick, 39 Dunedin News.
An unlikely sport is gaining traction among the city's youth. More than 50 Year 7 and 8 pupils are taking part in an annual table tennis competition over several weeks, and organisers hope it'll boost participation in all levels of the game.
Whack. Dozens of intermediate school students from around the city are at Kaikrai Valley College for a spot of table tennis. The sport's gaining popularity in Dunedin with a 10% increase in club participation over the last couple of years. And Otago table tennis coach Martin Duffy says that's thanks to a push to attract younger players.
The sport was most probably was ageing a wee bit, so I think Otago table tennis realised they had to really start at the bottom, and so there's a good number of younger people playing into club now, and the signs are that it'll be getting bigger and better every year.
The tournament's been run since 2013 with a record 30 teams entered this year. And Duffy says it's great to see so many kids getting the hang of table tennis, despite it not being the easiest sport to pick up.
It's most probably one of the harder racket sports to play because you're so close to the opposition and there's so much spin involved, and it's so fast as well. But you learn to play slowly and then gradually build your speed up, and doing that you get the spin appreciation at the same time.
Duffy says the main aim of the competition is to encourage new people into the sport and show the pathways available for progression. And he says there's plenty of inspiration locally for the young players to draw on.
We've had some good players out of this over the last couple of years, so the standard in Dunedin's getting quite good now, and we're starting to sort of threaten nationally quite good.
The competition runs for several weeks with the majority of matches set for next term. A chance for these players to get in as much practice as possible over the pending school holidays. Ruby McAndrew, 39, Dunedin News.
Local bodybuilders are gearing up for the national championships following success in the South Island event. About 50 athletes put on a show for the annual competition held in Dunedin for the 5th consecutive year, and some hope to be selected to flex on the international stage.
Putting their back out for the top spot. These athletes show off their sculpted physiques to gain titles at the South Island Bodybuilding Championships. The Otago-dominated contest is a major stepping stone towards the national competition next month.
We are the last show before nationals, and everyone has to compete in a regional and qualify in the top 3 to compete in nationals. So nationals are the next show, so obviously everyone's like in their top condition, ready to go for nationals, hoping they'll qualify. And the judges have just said to me that the calibre is really impressive. The quality of athletes here is just amazing.
This is the 5th year Dunedin's hosted the South Islands after Sinclair asked the National Association if Otago could have its own bodybuilding show. She says the event's a huge success with people of all ages getting involved.
We've had people in the 60 plus, 50 plus range, right through to students who can hardly afford to go through tertiary education, let alone try and compete. So we've got people and teenage boys, junior men, which they'll be only about 15 years old. So a huge range of calibre of people, and senior women, senior figure women, they'll be over 55, 56 years old, so like myself.
Local competitor Shannon teaches health, sport and physical education at Bayfield High School. She's won the overall Miss Figure and Miss South Island titles and says the contest's given her an opportunity to prove she can do whatever she puts her mind to.
I actually started to do the whole bodybuilding thing to prove a few people wrong. I suffer from a condition called fibromyalgia, which is like having arthritis in your muscles almost. It's like a chronic pain thing. And so I was told to do things like aqua jogging and yoga and stuff like that, and avoid contact sports and heavy weights and that kind of thing.
Several local bodybuilders are preparing to represent Otago at the Nationals, and Sinclair hopes at least 6 will be chosen for a 30-strong New Zealand team competing in the International Universe Championships. That'll be held in the Philippines in November. Annabelle Dick, 39 Dunedin News.
And finally, the city's BMX season is off to a record start with more than 100 young riders hitting the track for the first time. The preschool and primary riders are participating in the local club's annual BMX Schools Challenge, and older members are preparing for their first major competition.
Taking to the track like pros. Due to the growing popularity of BMX, the local club is again holding a schools challenge. That's seeing 130 children between 2 and 11 years old experience a racing environment. And club president Simon Heptonstall says it's a chance for kids to practice their foundling skills.
Basically learning bike skills again, or getting onto a bike for the first time, getting onto a BMX track and having a bit of fun really and a race as well.
These young riders aren't just tackling the course but also the elements, with rain making things a bit more difficult. But Heptonstall says Dunedin's changeable weather is all part of the fun, and it isn't deterring anyone from hopping onto their bikes.
We finished last season with 80 signed up members. We're easily going to probably push above 100 this season, and we'll get a few riders off of this event today who are keen, and they'll want to carry on.
Heptonstall says this event is all about encouraging good sportsmanship within a BMX competition environment. And he hopes in coming years the club will have the means to host more events.
Pushing to hopefully for a new site within Dunedin so we can expand, have a higher level, so we're going to go for a 5-metre start ramp, have a pro straight so we can actually increase the riders' abilities and probably compete against the North Island people a bit more.
This year's BMX season is just beginning with the club's first major competition to be held in a couple of weeks in Christchurch. Something for these youngsters to aspire to. Ruby McAndrew, 39 Dunedin News.
And that's all for this edition of Southern Newsweek. Please do visit our website dunedintv.co.nz, where you can download Southern Newsweek and watch individual clips of 39 Dunedin News or webcast the show. I'm Holly Buchanan. Thanks for watching.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.